A story of the Sullivan brothers. Pull up a chair, son. It's quiet tonight. Good, because some stories, they need the quiet. You asked about the Sullivan boys. George, Frank, Joe, Matt, Al. 5 of them. Folks today, they hear the Sullivans and think of a monument, a black and white picture. But I remember them as they were. Flesh and blood, dirt on their knees, running loose in Waterloo, Iowa. I worked the rails down at the yard, same place their pa did when they were knee-high. Knew 'em all. George, the eldest, always had a dime for a soda. Al, the youngest, just a kid, always chasing Joe, who was the quietest, the thinker. Frank and Matt, they were the fire and the salt. Always getting into scrapes, but never staying mad. They weren't heroes yet. They were just ours. Then came the fall of 41. The boys heard the news about their friend, a fella named Billy, who got killed aboard the Arizona at Pearl Harbor. When that news hit Waterloo, it didn't just knock the wind out of us. It set a fire. The boys, they didn't talk about patriotism or duty right away. They talked about Billy. They talked about getting even. They went down to their recruitment office that week. All 5 of them. They stood shoulder to shoulder, muddy boots on the polished floor, and they looked that Navy officer right in the eye. They said they wouldn't go unless they were promised one thing. They had to serve together, on the same ship. Now that was against every regulation the Navy had. Separating brothers, that was policy in case something went wrong. But the Sullivans, they were like a force of nature. They argued, they pleaded, they raised hell. They told the officer, and I heard George tell their mother the same thing. We always worked together, Ma. We always fought together. If one of us goes down, we all go down. It was a promise, a terrible, beautiful pact. The Navy, desperate for men, finally agreed. They ended up on the USS Juneau, a light cruiser. I saw them off. The whole town turned out. Mrs. Sullivan was trying to be brave, but her hands were shaking. They looked so sharp in these new uniforms. 5 Iowa boys heading for the wide blue Pacific. They stood on the deck, waving, 5 figures shrinking into one memory. The Juneau saw action quickly. They were in the thick of it around Guadalcanal. The letters came back slow, smelling of salt and grease. They talked about the heat, the bad food, and how Matt was still cheating at poker. Even on a cruiser. They were Sullivans. They were fine. Then came November 13th, 1942. The naval battle of Guadalcanal. A furious, confusing fight in the dark, close quarters combat. The Juneau was hit hard. She limped away, damaged. But as she was sailing to safety, a Japanese submarine, the I-26, found her. One torpedo, right in the ammunition magazine. The explosion. It tore the Juneau in half, gone in a flash. For days, nobody knew who survived. The few men who made it off were scattered in the oil-slicked ocean, surrounded by sharks and unimaginable terror. 7 days later, they were finally rescued. When the survivors were questioned, the truth started to trickle back to the States. Frank and Joe, the scrappiest pair, were confirmed lost in the initial blast. Matt, the big-hearted one, he went in the first day or 2 in the water. George, the steady oldest brother, he lasted a little longer, helping the others. The last one they saw was Al, the baby. He was gone a few days before rescue arrived. The Navy didn't tell us right away. They told the parents of the survivors first, asking them to keep quiet for operational secrecy. Imagine that. They were already mourning their own boys, but they had to carry the secret that the Sullivan boys were gone. Their sacrifice changed things. It was the catalyst for the Navy's sole survivor policy. No family would ever lose all their children like that again. The Navy learned its lesson because 5 brothers from our small town forced them to. Today, there are streets, destroyers, parks named after them. But to me, they're still just the boys who cheated at poker and ran the streets of Waterloo. They were 5 hearts beating as one, and when that heart broke, it was heard around the world. And sometimes when a train whistles past the old yard and the wind is just right, I swear I can hear 5 young voices arguing about whose turn it is to buy the next soda. That's what you need to remember. They weren't just history, they were brothers, and they kept their pact.